In this short video, I would like to quickly walk you through this test evaluation platform. I believe many of you must be already familiar with since you might have used a similar platform earlier, for example HackerRank or Top Coder or something similar. In case if you haven't, in this quick tutorial video I would like to quickly walk you through about what the test will look like, and especially how you should answer the programming questions and algorithmic questions. All right, so first of all, in this test there will be three sections. First section will be an MCQ style sections, which should be pretty straightforward, at least in terms of answering those questions. So each question would have multiple options, and depending on the questions you have to choose one correct answer or multiple correct answers. For example, in this question's answer is only one is the correct answer. Let's say if I select this and then I move to the next question. Again, very simple questions, but in this case, like, there are multiple correct answers, so you have to just select all of them. As you can see it here, there are three sections, and the time for each section will be displayed at this corner of the test. Besides this timer, you will see a button called OK, but in your scenario you will see a button called Finish Test. Please make sure that you do not click on this button until you are really done with the testing. Again, I'm just repeating it to make sure that please do not click on this button with label as Finish Test. You should click on that Finish Test button only when you are done with the complete test. That means only when you are done with all the three sections. If you click on this button in between, your entire test will be terminated and you won't have a chance to answer other questions. So please be very careful. Within these sections, you can just do back and forth as many times as you like. In case if you skipped some questions, or if you thought that maybe the earlier answer was not correct and you want to correct it, all these things are fine. You can just switch between the questions as long as you are within that section. So here currently I'm in section 1, and just for demonstration purpose it has only 2 questions and I can just move back and forth. Once you feel that yes, I'm done with my MCQ sections and I would like to move to next, you will see an option like the next section. Okay, and as you click on this, you will see a prompt message. And again, this is very important information. Whenever you see any prompt message, something like this or any other prompt message, make sure that you read the instructions carefully, because often like we are tend to just click on the yes or next, maybe without reading the instructions fully. So please don't do it. Make sure that you read the instructions correctly before you act on it. The reason being, as you see it here, what it indicates is you have clicked on the next section, which means you have completed the section 1, and once you move from this section to the next, you won't be able to switch back to the earlier section. Or in other words, once you move from these sections to the next, you won't be able to come back to the previous section. Alright, so keep a note of it and be mindful of it. Alright, so in this case I'm just done with my first MCQ section, so I will say yes. In the second sections you will find one algorithmic problem. As you can see it here on the left hand side, you will have the problem description. Along with the problem descriptions, we will also mention 1 or 2 examples, as you can see it here. Here the problem statement is very simple, wherein I have to find sum of all numbers in a given array. And this is an example. For example, I had an array with 5 elements with value as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I need to return is the sum of all these elements, which is 15 in this case. Now let's start implementing it. So what you have to do is you have to solve this problem by writing the suitable code. In terms of programming language, you can just choose any one of these. All the different options will be available in the drop down. But make sure that after reading the problem statements and after looking at the language options, you choose the one option wisely. The reason being, if you partially coded your problem statement in C++, and let's say if you switch to Java, whatever code that you had written in C++ will be lost and forever, so you won't be able to recover it. So make sure that after reading the problem statements, make yourself comfortable with the language that you want to use to solve this problem. You can use any of this programming language, and as long as you answer it correctly, you will get full marks. In this case, let's say I'm choosing the Java as a language. Again, here as you see, it displays a message indicating that are you sure that you want to change your language, and if you do so, you will lose all of your existing code. But since I have coded anything, that should be fine. So I'm just clicking on proceed. And now here you can see you have a function which just has name of the function, which is find sum, 2 input parameters. So in this input parameters, you will actually get your test data, and it returns one output. Depending on the problem statements, this number of name of the functions, number of parameters and values in these functions, as well as the output of this function will change. What you have to do is you have to correctly implement this function, and you have to return your answer as a return statement. Again, please make sure that you return your answer as a return statement. If you are just logging your answer using system.out.println, or if you are just printing your output in the console, the evaluation engine or the test engine will not give you any marks. You have to return the correct answer as a return statement. Okay, and let's just quickly show it how it looks like. Another important thing, as you can see it here, there is a statement called throw new unsupported exception, which is added by the engine just to or it is just a dummy statement which is added by the evaluation engine. But when you actually write the code, make sure that you remove this statement. Okay, you either comment it out or you remove it completely. But make sure that if you show any statement like throw some unsupported exceptions or anything equivalent which is added by the engine by default, you have to remove them. Okay, cool. So I have removed them, and now let me just try to implement this. So here I have to compute the sum of an array. I'm just gonna write the logic to compute the sum, nothing fancy as such. All right, and then I will just return the result. Again, as I said, you have to return the statement with the correct answer, then only your code will be evaluated against the predefined test cases, and you will get the expected mark if your code is correct. Once this is done, you can just use this button compile and test, which will compile your code and also runs the various test cases. Alright, so as you see it here, there are two set of test cases. For first set of test cases, this is for your reference. So here you can actually see the input, the expected output, and the actual output. Here actual output is the output returned by the program that you had implemented. And since expected and actual output are matching, that means test case 1 is passed. Similarly for test case 2 also, my expected and actual outputs are matching, and hence it is passed. Apart from this, there are few other test cases, as you can see it here. This test case will be used to evaluate your code and grade your code, or to assign marks to your code. There will be multiple test cases depending on the problem, and for this test case you will only be able to see the output, whether it is passed or failed. You won't be able to see the input data for this test case, because this test case we are using it to actually evaluate your code, and hence we cannot reveal the test data. Alright, again, if you click on the code, you will get back to the code. And let's say for whatsoever reason, if you feel that okay, my logic is not working as expected and I want to put some console output just to do some debugging, troubleshooting, that's perfectly fine. For example, here I want to log the current total just as an example. So you can add as many system out statement as you like. Maybe let's say one at the final total. Again, this test engine will perfectly accept all the system out whatever you have printed. Make sure that you do not have any compilation errors. But importantly, you have to return the correct output as a return statement. I can put as many system out as I like as I mentioned it here, which I will use for debugging or troubleshooting purpose. But I have to make sure that I am returning the expected output. Alright, and if you run it one more time, and if you go to your default test case, and then here you should be able to see your console as you can see it here. So for test case 1 it has displayed these 4 or 5 messages. Similarly for test case 2 also it has displayed whatever system out that you have printed. Alright, so again, as I mentioned, you can just add the system out, but make sure that you return the output correctly. Another important thing, and we often see that people are making mistake, is while solving this problem you have to only implement the logic inside this function. You do not have to write the main class, you do not have to write the main method, you do not have to read from the console. So please make sure that you are not spending time in writing main, you are not spending time in reading from the console. You have to just implement the function which is given to you without any code. Alright, it may happen that while implementing the function, probably you felt that I want to add some another private method to solve this problem. For example, let's say simple sum or simple, let's say I just want to write another function because my problem statement is complex and probably I cannot write entire logic here, so I just want to, let's say, introduce one more private function, and this is perfectly fine. Let's say I am returning x plus y as an output, and probably here I am just using this new function, let's say sum of total comma. So instead of doing total plus input, I am just calling this function, otherwise there is no change in the logic. Alright, and if I run it one more time, yeah, and as you can see, and as I expected, it successfully executed all the test cases because I did not change the logic, I just changed the implementation of my code just to maybe make it more simpler or to refactor it. Alright, so again, you can add other private methods, other functions as you like to solve your problem, that's perfectly fine. But importantly, you have to return your correct output as a return statement, and you do not have to write main, you do not have to read from the console. Okay, cool. And once this is done, again you will see the timer here. So in these sections you will have one programming problem. You have to just choose any other programming language of your choice and you have to solve the problem. The time allocated for these sections would be roughly 45 minutes. Once you feel that I have solved this problem and I want to move to the next section, again, yes, so once you are done with solving the programming questions, there will be another set of questions that you need to answer. One of that questions would be related to the database. Okay, and as you can see it here, the database question is related to find all to-do tasks with name as shopping and which are incomplete. Okay, so in this case you can actually see the schema as shown in front of your screen, wherein here you will see all the tables and the relationships, the name of the fields, name of the tables and everything. What you have to do in this problem statement is you have to just write the suitable query, and let's say in this case, just for demonstration purpose, I am writing select star from to-dos where to-do equal to Okay, this is again just for the demonstration purpose. Okay, based on the problem statement, you might have to write a bit more complex query, and once you write that query, you can just run your query to ensure that there are no compilation error, just to see what output it returns. And maybe you can just check your query to see if the output of your query matches with the sample query that we have entered it in the test engine. Or basically in this step, when you run on the check query, it just compares your output of your query against the expected data set. All right, and if they're matching, it will say pass, otherwise it will say false. Okay, again, this is simple query, but just to demonstrate that in this section, or in the sections wherein you have to write the programming, you have to write the SQL statement, or you have to solve the SQL problem, you need to just write the SQL query. Another thing is, often people make mistake wherein they try to create the tables and all those things. You don't have to create or modify any of the tables. All the required tables along with some sample data are already created. Okay, and you can see the existing tables, structures, fields, and the relationship between tables in this tab called schema. What you have to do it is, you have to just write the select query. It may include select plus some field plus some where condition, maybe join condition, order by condition, so on and so forth. Okay, based on the problem statement, you have to write the correct query, and you have to validate your output using this run query and check query. Clear? Once that is done, then we also have a few problems, roughly around like 4 problems that we have. These problems are related to object-oriented programming and data structure. Okay, now in this style of problem, what you will see it is a problem description, as you can see it here. For example, in this case, I would like to just implement a basic calculator, basically the calculator with operations like add, subtraction, multiplication, and division. What you will be given is a pseudocode, or I would say not just the pseudocode, you will be given the partially written code. Okay, so this is not a pseudocode, this is the partially written code, wherein required classes, required method signatures. When I say signature, means method name, return type, input parameters are already defined. What you have to do it is, you have to read the problem statement, and as per the instructions given in the problem statement, and as per the instructions given in the code, you have to implement it. For example, here as you can see, there is a class called calculator.java, and then there are bunch of to do comments. You have to just implement these to do comments to solve this problem. Alright, so again I'm repeating, you have to read the problem description very carefully, and based on the instructions given in the problem statement as well as the to do comments written in the code, you have to implement them. What you will get it is a partially written code, or what you will be given is the partially implemented classes. You have to only implement the methods inside these classes as per the to do comments. Alright, so for example, here if I have to add, it will be just like say x plus y, and then it will be x minus y, and then multiplication would be simply x multiplied by y, and division would be simple x by y. Okay, here again the important thing is you have to return from the method with the correct output. If you don't return correctly, you will not get any marks because the test case will not pass. Similar to previous programming problem, here also you can add system.out.println for debugging purpose, but you have to return the correct output as a and as instructed in the to do comments. Clear? Once that is done, what you can do it is you can click on this button. So again, you will see 2 buttons, run unit test and run as console. You have to make sure that you are clicking on run unit test. Alright, and when you run on this, Okay, it is asking me that there are few items which are not yet saved, so yes, let me save it. And when you run it, you will see some output like this, and this output is nothing but there are few test data and test scenarios we have added in the main method. For example, here as we can see, I have created a new calculator object, and then on the calculator object I am calling the add method with two values 20 and 10, and hence I am expecting that its value will be 30, and the actual value that I have received in the sum is also 30, and that's why the first line says that my expected value is 30, actual value is 30. Similarly, for difference also, in the next step I am calculating the difference between 20 and 10, and as I expect, my expected value is 10 because 20 minus 10 is 10, and the actual value is also 10 because that's what I have implemented in the subtract function, if you see inside this. Correct? Similarly, look for other two, it is now pretty self-explanatory. You will get 20 multiplied by 10 equal to 200 and 20 by 10 equal to 2. Again, what we have done it is in the system.out.println statement, we have hard coded the expected value and we have printed the actual value. This actual value will be returned based on the logic that you will implement. Okay, so you can validate that whether your test logic or whether your implemented logic is correct or not based on this output of the test. Alright, again I'm just repeating few things. So all these problem statements which will be primarily related to object oriented programming and data structure, it will be in Java. So you have to code these problem statements in Java only. Second, you do not have to delete or modify any of the existing classes or constructors or methods. You have to modify or write the code only inside the methods or inside the class as per the to-do comments. Alright, so you do not have to delete existing classes, you do not have to delete existing methods, you do not have to delete existing constructors, plus you do not have to modify signature of existing classes and existing methods. When I say signature, what I mean is please do not modify method name, return type and the parameters which are already defined. You have to implement the body of the respective methods, okay, as per the to-do comments which are given here. Clear so far? So in this style of problem solving exercise, you have to just implement the methods or the code inside the method as per the to-do comments. Alright, cool. And in between, if you have any questions or doubt or questions, please feel free to ask the volunteers who will be around you to clarify doubt with respect to what should be written and what should not be written. But make sure that you follow the instructions carefully and you try to implement it. Another important thing to keep it in mind is for most of the problem statements we have added multiple test cases. So in case if you have solved a problem partially, for example, you have been asked to implement 4 methods here, and let's say out of 4 methods you have implemented only 2 methods, then also you will get some partial marks. So make sure that even if you have solved it partially, don't hesitate, you have to compile it successfully and you have to submit it so that your test score will be calculated based on the implementation that you have done. But the important thing is make sure that your code is in compiled state. If your code is not in compiled state, either a compilation errors, the test engine or the test platform will not be able to evaluate your code. So be mindful of it. Okay. Alright, and now since I am done, I am going to click on OK, I am going to click on the finish test button, which you will see it here. But again, as I said, you should click on this button only when you are done, only when you are done with all the 3 sections. Just to reiterate, there will be 3 sections. First sections will be related to MCQs, roughly around like 30 questions in the first MCQ sections. In the second sections, you will have one programming problem or one algorithmic problem that you have to solve it in the language of your choice, like C, C#, C++, Java or Python. In the third section, you will have a mix of OOPS, data structure and the SQL problems, as we saw. The problems in third section, especially the OOPS and data structure related problems, you have to solve it in Java, wherein you will be given the partially written code or the partially written classes. You have to implement the remaining logic as per the to-do comments given in the problem descriptions as well as in the code. And again, I just kept these notes or summary of notes in front of you just to make sure that this information is internalized. As you see the video, please go through these instructions or the summary notes one more time, which is same as like pretty much what I have mentioned during this video. So please take care of it. I'm just quickly repeating it once, and most important, do not end the test unless you are done. Second, once you move to the next sections, you won't be able to go back. So make sure that you click on the next section only if you are confident about finishing a particular section. And there are 3 sections. If you see any prompt like info, warning or something, make sure that you carefully read it and then act on it. If you have any questions, please let us know, or please let the volunteers know who are around you. In programming or algorithmic style of questions, you do not have to write main, you do not have to read from console, you have to just implement the function which is given to you by reading the input data which are passed as a function input parameters, and you have to return the correct output as return statement. You can use the any language from the given options like C#, C++, Java or Python. If you see unsupported exception, please remove it. You can add other methods as you like. You can also add system.out.println or console statement as you like for debugging purpose, but you have to return the correct output. In the final section, the code completion sections, there will be database related questions wherein you have to just write the SQL statements. You do not have to write create table, or you do not have to insert any data. All these things are predefined. You have to just write the select statement correctly as per the instruction. Other questions will be related to object oriented programming and data structures, wherein you have to read the problem statement carefully and implement it as per the to do instructions given in the code. And here, please do not remove any of the existing classes. Please do not remove any of the existing methods, and do not modify signature of existing methods or constructors. Alright. Here also you can add other private methods as you like to solve your problem. That's perfectly fine. But please do not modify the signature of existing methods. You can implement the body of that method as per the to-do instruction. Okay. And these object oriented programming and data structures will all be in Java. And once you are done, then you have to click on run test button as we saw to validate your output, which you will be see it in the console. So that's it. Brief introduction about what this platform is about, what kind of questions there will be, and how you should answer them.